You always get sick before a big test, right? What's going to happen because you're stressed, you increase those cortisol levels, you suppress your immune system. That's a fact, right? So why do you keep getting sick? Maybe you're getting sick because you're stressed out. So being able to intervene in an impactful way and not just coming to my patients saying, I'm pushing this pill, but how might I serve you that fits what's going on in your life? Because what may be going on in your life is you need someone to talk to because you're going through stress, anxiety, depression, mental health things. And I need to be able to mirror that for you. How may I serve you?
Welcome to Connecting the Dots. I'm your host, Jessica Caresse, and this space is a place where we talk about seemingly random topics, but in all actuality, they're connected together. And today we have a very special guest. Her name is Dr. Walkitria Smith. She's a native of Mobile, Alabama, and she's no stranger to the Atlanta community. She holds a BS from Spelman College and an MD from Morehouse School of Medicine. She completed her residency at Chesterfield Family Practice in Richmond, Virginia, during which she served as chief resident while holding a dual teaching appointment at Virginia Commonwealth University School of Medicine. As a physician and community health advocate, Dr. Walkitria Smith has dedicated her life to reducing health disparities through education, primary care, and preventative medicine. Dr. Smith's clinical and medical research interests include women's health and pediatrics, preventative and lifestyle medicine with a strong focus on diet, exercise, and living a holistically healthy life. She also has a strong interest in chronic disease, particularly empowering patients to navigate their diagnosis through health education. Dr. Smith is a distinguished member of the American Board of Family Physicians and the Georgia Academy of Family Physicians. In addition to her leadership roles in local community organizations, she's a devoted wife and mother who enjoys cooking and traveling. Wow. Thank you so much for being on my show. You are such an accomplished person. I can imagine you're a wonderful role model for so many people. So thank you so much for being on my show. And I love to learn more about your day to day. Like, what does all of that even mean? Like, what does that look like? Like, let me in on the deets.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I've always said that my test is someone else's testimony. And what I mean by test, when you read the accolades or my accomplishment, none of those things happened by happenstance. There was a moment in life that triggered me to want to pursue medicine, and taking that route to pursue medicine has not been easy. And it has been a beautiful journey. And so I've always been able to, or wanted to, spread the wealth and lessons learned. Even since that bio was written a few years ago, there's been so many transitions that have taken place in my own life and my own career path. So I appreciate you for having me, just elevating me in this way. So thank you.
So of course. Like the reason why I started this podcast is to share stories like yours that otherwise aren't really circulating around like that on the internet. And it's a place for people who are looking for real sources of information, sources of inspiration, lessons learned.
Yeah. And so when we're in this digital age, and I say digital purpose because that also you'll see how that has entered the trajectory of my career path as of the last few years. It has been a beautiful piece or addition. I'm of the age where the dial-up. I remember when the internet started, AOL, right? And so to see how it's been able to connect to people outside of what we have in our communities is a beautiful thing. Because for me personally, my career or how I wanted to go about medicine was triggered by my mom having breast cancer very, very early, at 26, right after I was born. So, you think about, you're just adjusting to your body's adjusting, right? You have a newborn. At that time, it was the last child, so 3. You're still working, trying to be a wife, and then I can only imagine that added layer of having breast cancer, being diagnosed. And so hearing her story about who were the ones who were her saving grace, which was her primary care physician, and then within my own community, trying to identify who that looked like, right? So I'm thinking as a child, there was a superhero who saved my mother, right? And so who in my community I can latch on to. So I would go to doctor's visits and I would see and try to mimic the things they did. And within my community growing up in Mobile, Alabama, there was not a lot of black physicians, right? I could name the black physicians. We just had one who passed away recently, Dr. Foster, Kendall Foster, who's OBGYN. But I remember that. I remember him. He impacted me because there weren't a lot of people who looked like me in our community who were taking care of my people, who were taking care of my mother, my grandmother, my aunt. And so I looked at them from far, far, um, and wanted my life trajectory to be like theirs. And so now with this digital age, we are not just leaning into what's in close proximity to us in our own communities, which may have limitations, right? So in my community, there may be in Mobile, I have 100 doctors, maybe only 5 or 10 who are black at that time, right? Again, I can name them. That's the burial of Dr. Burials. That is Dr. Robinson. Oh, God rest his soul. That is the Dr. Stones. Like for me in this day, my big old age, and remember them because there wasn't a lot of them, speaks volumes of how they impacted me in my life. And so by having this digital platform to reach a little girl who may not have anybody in her community, because if you think about it, what 2% of
Yeah.
physicians are black
It's like
female
2%.
physicians?
Yeah.
So thank you for this opportunity.
Of course. Of course. Of course. Yeah, of course. And it's just funny, like briefly before we started recording, we were sharing a little bit of our backgrounds and I mentioned, like you represent like the path I didn't take, I didn't go to medical school, but as I was, in my pre-med years, that was a thing. There's only 2% black women physicians, And I remember I grew up in Baltimore and the first time I went to an OBGYN, it was like the scariest thing ever. I'm like, what the heck is this? But my first physician, she was African American physician. And so because of that, like I was able to feel comfortable and she was able to describe things that I didn't understand about my body or, understand or how to even go about certain things. And so she provided like a place of safety. And I actually forgot about that experience until we started talking.
Now, yeah, that's a real thing. So even my point of safety. So at that time, my mom's doctor was not. And her OBGYN was the one who actually diagnosed her with breast cancer. Not African American, but just a phenomenal physician. And my first pap smear was with him. And my point of safety was the fact that the familiarity of the fact that he helped save my mother's life, right? And also brought me into the world. Would it be comfortable in any other situation? Probably not. But that was, I just knew to trust based upon that piece, right? That he's innately a part of my community. But to your point, when I've had other providers who were, looked like me, understood me, talked, there was a different level of safety that just resonated how they presented, how they communed, how they spoke to me, even not knowing what my path was, or even if I haven't established who I was. I think there was value in that was able to be cultivated and not based on the premise of who they were to my mother. And so that is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
You tend to be more open to those people that you trust. And we, as a community, have trust issues with healthcare, just by virtue of how there have been some things in terms of research and medicine society, some complicit biases that have been just run rapid, have been part of the fabric of medicine. And so I take that oath, I take the honor of being able to be a vesicle to provide safety to those who really need to interface and get that particular care.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny because I didn't even think I was going to go down this route at all with you. But now it's like, as we're talking, there's just some more memories and experiences that are just popping up. Like one of them was, my friend at the time, she was having a healthcare scare. I related like to her bowels, like her stomach was just killing her. And so we went to a hospital where it was in one of the lower, it wasn't even like super lower income neighborhood, but it was just, more majority Black community. And so at the hospital, you went to the emergency room. The doctor wasn't even willing to give her a whole evaluation until he found out that she actually had insurance. And then she was able to get an ultrasound, and then they saw like blockages in her intestines.
And I mean, those stories are not anomalies, unfortunately. I mean, that is the reality. And, so I chose the path of family medicine because I felt that I always, everything in terms of my path of medicine is how can I create the greatest amount of impact. It's all been about impact and reach. That's my story. And from a family medicine lens, so family medicine, we're trained to deliver. People don't realize that. I actually stopped delivering about 5 or 6 years ago. 5 or 6 years ago, I did my last delivery. I think I was pregnant with my son, and so he's 6 now, so that was 6 years ago. And then we are trained for pediatrics, so I did newborn nursery up until about 2.5, 3 years ago. Still see pediatric patients. We do women's health, pap smears, so we're literally, I hate to say this term, but we talk about being from the cradle to the grave. So we bring life into the world, and we could go through with your entire life. That's how we're trained for family medicine. Some people choose to do more outpatient. Some people may choose to do inpatient. Some people, I have been fortunate in the majority of my career to be active in medicine where I've been able to maintain the bulk of those skill sets. And so part of the reason I did that was with the vision and the need to create the greatest reach for people. So my grandmother, my grandparents, they always like, we're sending you to doctor school. We're sending you to doctor school. You should be answer my questions, right? So and they would call and ask anything because they were used to the Dr. Stones and being able to call and ask them for, and not necessarily have to go to a specialist. They felt as if their family medicine, their primary care could take care of everything because that's kind of how things were back then. And so I went to doctor school, as my grandmother did would say. Spent all this money on doctor school. You're a doctor. You should be telling me X, Y, Z, because when my family, friends, whatever contacted me, I wanted to have at least a knowledge base to start up on to be able to help guide them.
Yeah.
And so by me saying that, by being in academic medicine, by just virtue of some of the things and experiences that I've seen, by me training, because I'm all about reach, right?
Yeah.
By me training future physicians, future family medicine doctors in residency, teaching, that's reach.
It is.
Because I'm giving those skills so that they don't do those types of things. That they serve, they are with dignity. It doesn't. You're not here to discern how much someone can pay. You're here to discern what they have and how to treat them in the best way.
Oh, that's amazing. I need more people like you. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
No, seriously. Because like when I was doing my pre-med and you volunteer and all that stuff, the way how they would talk about family medicine and general medicine, like, you don't want to do it. You're not going to get paid, blah, 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 blah. Like, but they completely lost the original premise of family medicine. And so it's like with you sharing that right now, I'm like, wow, yeah, that definitely was not the talk about family medicine when I was considering medical school.
Yeah, and that is something that has happened historically. But I do think that we were talking before we start filming in terms of how the business of medicine has changed.
Yeah.
And so they're understanding that, yes, you need a specialist to do X, Y, Z, but you have to have some type of funnel to get to that specialist. That's referrals. That's initial workup because you don't, from a cost standpoint, you don't necessarily always have to go directly to a surgeon to get this done. Doesn't always make sense cost effectively or just make sense in general. A lot of things you can do in your primary care home. And so, my goal has always been in the academic realm about reach, being able to impact and teach them to have as many skills and keep those skills as long as possible, so that you can be able to be invested into your patient because your patient, the surgeon may not take them.
Mm-hmm. 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 So how were you able to stay so focused with making sure you keep your skill set? Because that's actually something I can relate to, just working in the field of tech and just being in like the business enterprise space. Because sometimes in your career, you go down these paths where it's like you have skills that you really, really love, but then you're not actively using them. And then you develop other skills, but then, so it's always like a dance between how you can keep yourself like holistically up to date, or not up to date, but like keeping yourself like where you need to be and how you want to be.
I think the first part is leaning to your purpose and your mission. Leaning to your purpose and your mission and what it'll take to sustain or grow that purpose and mission. And out of transparency, as you go through life, there are certain skills that were meant for a time or a season. And you do have to leave some skills there, right? So you could create capacity to receive other things that will take you to the next level. And so, again, for me, I told you my biggest thing was reach. How can I do the maximum impact? And so that has impacted the amount of clinical interactions I have, to be honest with you. So I'm not in the clinic anymore, seeing patients all day, every day. I'm done that now.
Mm-hmm.
I am intentional by still doing things clinically, to keep a finger to the pulse, maybe picking up extra shifts here or doing. I divide that in my time, so I make sure I'm doing something clinical, if not once a week, maybe. So that means I do take night call for the hospital, right? Because that helps me keep abreast of that clinical skill. So I'm just intentional by keep it like sharpening that pencil every now and then. Is not the bulk of my time out of transparency. So it may surprise 10 to 15% of my time now because I have to utilize the next part of my time for the next season that God has developed me for, which is the next week. And so, like I said, the first stage was I'm going to do family medicine because I could go to doctor school and I could doctor on everybody, go to family medicine. The next thing was everybody told me, do academics, you'll be great at academics. And when people tell you to do something, you're going to do the total opposite. So like the first year out of residency, I was like, oh, I'm going to go do private, and it didn't serve me. It didn't serve my purpose. Right? The purpose I already knew was ordained over me. And so opportunity came up to go to academic medicine in a position and become the associate program director at the medical school. I took it up. That was my niche. I loved it. And when you lean into the things that you love, you're gonna thrive. I saw this clip of David Banner recently on the internet, and he talked about like how sometimes we're wondering why some things that we used to be good at, God won't, like, we can start having pitfalls from them. And it's but on the other side, all these other things fall in place. That's God's way of telling you where you need to be. So God's telling him, hey, listen, that music stuff, like you rapping, that's why at some point he just wasn't like hitting from a rapping as an artist standpoint of that realm. He kept getting roadblocks. But over here in this film industry, he was thriving because God was trying to push him to the next level, the bigger level where he really wanted to be. And so God brought me there. And then again, on this journey, how do I impact the most people? So, okay, let me get to research. So my mom had breast cancer. What kind of breast cancer what kind of cancer research is out there? The opportunity came up to start a telemedicine program. This is pre-COVID. This is pre-COVID. This is 2017.
Wow. Yeah.
So we started a telemedicine program. I was the first director, inaugural. I mean, we did all the things at our school of medicine. You know, we if you pull it up, we were doing it pre-COVID. And so when COVID came, we were the experts. Oh yeah, we've actually integrated this to our education and for medical education. We do OSCEs to teach the students how to do telemedicine. So this isn't new to us. We're ready. Let's go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Leader in the space. You were ready for the opportunity to be
We're
a leader
ready.
in the
Let's
space.
go.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But that was the most impact because what I saw for telemedicine was for people who were in need of healthcare, right? They may not be able to take off work because they're hourly, or to get a babysitter, or get elder care, or pay the bus wage to come in. How can I reach this person? Reach. So telemedicine created that modality for what my vision was, the largest amount of reach, right? So that was the next phase. And then things happened, opportunities came up. I decreased my time in the medical school and started to build more into my private practice. I have a micro private practice, concierge practice. That's kind of where I keep my clinical skills, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's outside of the model of time based or anything. Is I give the time that is needed for my patient.
Yeah,
That may be
that's
2 hours,
nice.
that may be 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So it allowed for me to have that time and things were, some things were happening. And then I was told to come back more fully, not full time, but can you come back to give us more time at the medical school?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because there's some projects that you started, some grants that you got, and we need you to come in and bring this home, friend. And so was brought back as a chief digital health officer, chief digital medical officer at the medical school, which is all things innovation and technology that helps impact patient delivery. That's wearables, so remote patient monitoring. That is we're AI. So I told you when we weren't filming that I'm a fellow with NIH as an AI fellow. So how are we going to be leveraging AI in an equitable and a responsible way to provide care, leverage that care for patients and decrease some of the burden as it relates to providers and take away some of the bias that we know is already like just permeates the healthcare. And so that was the next thing coming in and start to building out the Center of Digital Health Equity, Center of Digital Health, as we renamed it now. Because reach, every stage I go to, what's the reach?
Yeah. Wow. It's like, I love this conversation so much because it's like the fundamental concepts of just, I don't know, how to live life. It's like the same regardless of what field you're in, right? Because your vision is reach. How can you help people? How can you reach? How can you help people? How can you reach? And it's like, it's like for me, I went off on my own because I kind of had the same type of vision where it's like, okay, like in the business world, I look at what I do as like finding root cause diagnosis for why your business isn't operating the right way. Right. Because it's like everything is like a process and, everything's really interconnected. So many parallelisms between so many different things in life. And for me, I saw all the business practices, people not being honest and just, people just operating from a place of ego. And as a result, a lot of people suffer because people lose their jobs and everything, the stress levels. So it's like, it's the indirect destruction of people. So I'm like, no, I want to start a consulting firm that actually does the right thing. How can I have the most impact towards people, right? Towards like, their economic livelihood. And then for myself, I went through like a really, really deep personal transformation. And then I layered on the spiritual aspect of that as well, because you can't be your highest self. You can't do your purpose. You can't do any of the things you're supposed to do if you have a lot of gunk in here. So you got to get the gunk here, give it to God, and you got to get the gunk out of your business, and have it, steward it, right? Steward your business the way that it should be done. And then that's the trickle down effect, right? So, I absolutely love how like you have your Northern Star, like God put this vision in your heart, right? How can you have the most impact? And it's like you kept your eyes focused on that. And as a result, so many different opportunities came your way. And now you're leading the med tech AI digital revolution. What?
I I have my hands in a lot of things, and you just really like, I'm also very transparent. So even from the business side, it took a hit because, again, to your point, how do you balance all these things? And if you're not business minded, so I was trained to do medicine. I was trained for medicine. I have leadership training. I have process training. That's where I'm really, really good at. And so I those are my talents. But you also have to recognize your weaknesses, right? And so from a business standpoint, that's where I've had a lot of failures. I'm still like figuring that part out. And that's why I had to like just decrease because from a business standpoint, I don't believe in overpromising and underperforming, right? And it takes time and nurture and what that may look like is I'm not the person to handle the business part. I can do all clinical.
Yeah.
I could do the processes. I could do leadership, but you have to have someone there, the human capital, who can drive that aspect. And so doing where I think that's what a good leader is. And so even with the business, because I was having gaps in the business, I'm trying to fill some of the gaps. I would do contracts. I did a lot of contracting with studios, productions, different things. And I ended up doing contracting for doing some patient care for in a correctional space. And so everything I've done as far as my skill as a provider for processes and all of my skill sets have always made a tremendous impact and opened other doors for me. Um, it opened the door for me to become the chief. So I have title. By the way,
Girl, say the title. Say the title.
I'm being the chief population health officer for a company that I just recently took on because I could do those things, and I can lead with a team. And leading with the team means I know how to identify talent, build talent, and put you in the position to thrive so that we can move, right? So I know how to like say, this is what I need from a business standpoint or a financial standpoint. This is what I need from a revenue, whatever. But when you're trying to create that on your own for your own business, right?
Yeah.
From your own,
Yeah.
and you're navigating everything from the start. That's a heavy lift.
It's hard.
And so,
It's hard. Yeah.
One of my revelations over the last year, I would say, has been, again, lean into your purpose and lean into your talent. Hey, I'm still at my little micro thing because I like patient care, but my talent isn't for the development of that. And I'm going to, at some point in life, we'll bring in a team to get that to where, to the next level. My talent is reach, maximum impact, leveraging technology to do maximum impact, and knowing how to lead a team to be effective for those end results. So that's why I lean into now.
This is so great because, so I do project management and technology. And it's so funny as you like describe the leadership capabilities, because I don't even like really think about stuff like that just because I've been doing it so long. I'm like, oh yeah, lead a team. This is the end goal. If someone's not pulling their weight, what do I got to do to make sure that they're good and they start pulling their weight? Like, how do you influence people to care? That takes a lot. So again, yeah, all these parallel skills, like it really doesn't matter what field you apply it in, but it's the same fundamental fields of like, or skills of like leadership development, emotional intelligence, how to reach people,
absolutely,
human behavior, human nature, the psychology, the sociology, the economics, there's so much that goes into actually having a healthy functioning team that's growing and executing and doing the right thing.
And you know where it starts?
With
you.
I was going to be your answer.
With you.
Yes. Yes, it does.
It starts with the leader.
Yeah.
And, you know, my life over the last year, again, I always talk about my testimony. It was important for me to be good, physically, mentally, spiritually, and to invest in that, to take time, because I think that is the oxymoron of medicine is that I can tell you, I need you to do this. I can tell you everything. We're going to map this out. I'm going to check on you, make sure you're okay. But we don't always do that for ourselves as providers, as physicians, because we are service. We're used to serving, pouring, when we just don't. The concept can be foreign in terms of refilling ourselves. And to be honest with you, the social construct of how people see physicians a lot of times, oh, y'all just make all this money, y'all trying to take our money and, you know, all this other stuff, and not understanding the mental burden of the things that we bring home and that we're thinking about people. And even some of the research that was out there from a primary care standpoint, it says in order for us to do everything that we need to take care of our patient panels, we would have to spend 28 hours, I believe it is, at work. There's not even 28 hours in a day.
Wow.
As well as how we have just the type of people that go who are altruistic and go into this lifestyle don't necessarily give ourselves grace enough to take care of ourselves, right? Because we're used to serving others. We don't develop healthy boundaries. We don't develop that structure for ourselves on an ongoing basis. And so I am leaning into as well and understanding more and more that people depend on me. Because remember what I said I wanted to do. I want to do reach. But if I'm not okay, no one else is okay.
Exactly.
So the focal point of leadership, even as a servant leader, starts with that person.
Yeah.
And so really making sure that we are okay mentally, spiritually, and physically so that we can show up and lead is part of that process. So it's carving out time that we actually take time off. I told you before I got on here, was sick, kept being like, oh, I'm on whatever. And I had to take the time to refill my cup, take the medicines so that I'd be functional to do what I needed to do today. So leadership, strong leaders start with you being okay. Because I have seen so often in this culture, and I was just having this talk with someone earlier, that there's levels to leadership. You got directors, you got managers, and you got leaders.
Yeah.
Coordinate, you could task orient. Manage, okay, you're managing some people, giving them something. It can sometimes be a little task oriented. But when you're a leader, right, it's a different level of thinking.
It is.
You have to be able to see the vision and see how everyone fits in that vision and how you can pull them up, develop them, right? Like a team. What would make that team like the Philadelphia Eagles? What do we need to do that we will all run through this wall for each other to achieve this goal?
Yeah.
That's a talent.
It is. And the language translation to make sure everyone really understands what we're trying to do, you know.
Especially today when you have the most diverse job pool in terms of ages, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do I communicate across generations?
Yeah.
So that we're all invested in this end goal.
Yep. And then you also have the cultural factor too. So you have the age and the culture, all these complex factors to influence people. You know, it's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. And it's so funny because when you don't invest in yourself and you're the leader,
you just froze.
You got a little bit of delay? Okay. What about now? Are I still frozen?
Yeah, it's a little delay. You're frozen on my, let me see if you're going to unfreeze.
But can you hear me though?
Let me see. I'm going to try to recycle. I can hear you, but your picture's frozen on my screen. Can you see me?
Okay. Don't worry about that at all.
I
Yeah,
can hear
I
you.
can see
Yep.
you. Don't worry about me being frozen. Yeah, as long as you can hear me, that's the most important thing, because that's why Riverside's great, because it's uploading locally on my side. So as long as you can hear
Okay.
me, that's the most important thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes. So we were talking about leadership
Okay.
and what else were we talking about? We were talking about leadership development and the skills that it takes to influence the language communication aspect of it.
Investing in yourself to
And
be a
then,
good leader.
yes, investing in yourself. Yes, 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 yes. One of the things I noticed with investing in yourself, if when you don't, and let's say you don't have a routine, you don't have a structure to manage yourself to make sure you're good, that's when your thinking gets cloudy and stress starts to accumulate, because you don't have like the proper reset protocol, to make sure you're good. So then you start declining, and then everything else around you starts to decline. So like for
Absolutely.
myself, yeah, like I started really investing in myself and having my, wellness routines. I'm really leaning into wellness this year. And what I find is like I have so much more energy to do even more things.
Absolutely. That is the key. Like I was talking to a patient last week, and one of the things she began doing is she put this mirror outside her door, so she had to face herself every day.
Wow.
And she said that she started to go to talk to her mirror and say, "How may I serve you today?"
So nice.
Because we're so used to serving others,
Yeah.
and energy is being pulled from us, especially as leaders, as women, as mothers, as as part of the epicenter of our communities, right? Is
Yeah.
always this pull. Group chats. Child, I got group chats. I got groups on Instagram groups. We got, I'm sending my, like, that's real. Like, I just sent
Yes,
you
it
this
is.
meme on group chat, but you're getting the same one. And so you have all of these factors, right, that are constantly pulling from you. And we don't realize that sometimes even with those that seem very benign, right, and they're entering our spirit, that is still maybe pulling something from you. And, and it's not pulling from overflow, it's pulling from sometimes scarcity because we haven't had a chance to refill ourselves. And so I just thought it was so beautiful that she has been very intentional by starting her day with asking, "How do I serve you?" and looking at the mirror.
Yeah, I love that so much. I love that so much. I think I'm going to take a little bit of that, like, cause I definitely look at myself in the mirror every day, but I don't ask myself that question.
Me either. And I'm like, I told her, you know what? I'm gonna start. It's like I'm sick. I'm getting over being sick because I was just trying to wake up most mornings these last couple of days. But you probably don't remember Carrie Bradshaw, but Carrie used to have
I
those little
remember.
stickies
Yeah.
on her thing. So now I'm like, I'm about to ask myself, maybe I'll put a stick on this mirror so I can remind myself, so what am I doing for myself today?
That's
I
a
know
good
what I'm doing
idea.
for Ella and Garvey. I have two kids, so I know what I'm doing for Ella and Garvey. I'm doing a lot of things from that. I know what I'm doing for, Hassan and my mom and my aunt and my things and the text and the da 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 da. Okay, you send this referral, and I know I'm doing with this task list that I have for this position or that position. I know I'm gonna do this podcast, but what am I doing for me today?
Huh. What was the answer you came up with though?
Well, today I went on a walk, which it was great because I could, that's my happy place.
Yeah.
And with this, I told you about this, the land of snow, that yellow pollen that took over my life. And I was like, and I was so sad because I was sick and I would have the mask on. I pray I can't go outside because the pollen trying to kill me out here. All this pollen is like gunking up my lungs, my nose. And then I'm throwing all this medicine and I can't go out, my itchy, all this stuff. And finally, after suffering for like 12 days. I'm like, I don't do antibiotics. I haven't had antibiotics but twice in 20 years. Something crazy, right? The doctor allowed herself to be doctored. And I went outside. I was like, this was my first time in 2 weeks I can breathe.
Wow.
I was like, oh my gosh, fresh air. I'm back in the sunlight. That is my thing. My happy thing is being able to walk and be outside, being with nature and appreciate.
Yes.
I mean, it's my thing. So that's what I did. Yeah.
Oh, that's so incredible. It's so funny. As adults, now we're like, the best thing is when we get to spend time outside, like spending time in nature. Like,
but if you recall, and I can only I'm from Alabama, as you know.
yeah, yeah,
we went outside and played.
yeah, we did.
That's a real thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
When people have these memes about how I'm a geriatric millennial, having the water hose and raising ourselves, coming in when the street lights come on, and all these things that they talk about. Those are real things. You literally figured out where people were, where the bikes were in the yard.
Yeah. Yeah.
We played.
Yeah.
And so I think it's that reconnection and regrounding back and being centered back to what we knew that made us whole, made us community in a world that we are so we're in factions, and there's not that same level of connection because of social media has its good and bad sides, right?
Yeah.
So we think that texting and things like that are true connections.
It's not.
But it's not. Let's bring us back to where we remember feeling connected and grounded and back part of a community.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because I picked up golf July.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I picked up golf in July, and the community that I've just been building with the other people who either might be new to golf or learning golf or love golf, it's different. We're all just so happy to be outside playing golf together, We don't have our phones around. We're just spending time, just enjoying nature and just taking it all in. It's my favorite thing. It's my favorite thing to do. I look forward to my golf lessons all the time just because it's that outside nature, no technology. Everyone's just relaxed. It's fantastic.
And you're slowed down. Think about it. You're slowed down in the moment. And nowadays, moments are a moment. We're trying to capture everything on social. That's how we're conditioned now, We are quickly thinking, texting and whatever. But we're not always being in the moment. So to your point, I just love when I'm technology free.
Yes.
Outside, the simplest things.
Yeah.
Because it resonates so well. It makes me feel human again.
It's so funny because you're the chief digital health officer, right?
I like tech, but I'm I need to take a break.
If I could tell you, because for me, the current work I'm doing right now, I'm doing the data governance program, I'm cleaning up infrastructure.
That's what we're doing. Okay, we're on the same page. Okay, yeah.
But I have all these conspiracy theories, and if you were to look at my phone, I don't have any colors on my icons because I'm there's something with the colors. I'm not trying to be attached to this. I think maybe having the intricate experience with technology, you're kind of
I mean, that's part of the reason why, at one point, I'm I didn't get TikTok because I was oh, and I'm one of those people who reads, everybody's a step term, so I know, but I know what's data. Data is bank. Why do you think? Oh, everybody's the iPhone is listening to everything that you say. Well, friend, you just accepted all of these things that allowed them to query all your make it make sense.
People don't understand the infrastructure of all these things. People don't understand the infrastructure of it.
The algorithms.
And the algorithms. That's how my career was data entry, reporting, back-end processes, the stuff behind this pretty screen. So I look at things way different People are like, oh, what's the latest software? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, none of that matters because all these companies, they all end up doing the same features anyways. It's what's going on the back end.
Yeah. If you're good at math,
Yeah.
if you know how to do equations in
Yeah.
Excel,
Yeah.
you can thrive in this field.
Exactly. Oh, we have so much in common. Oh my gosh, I wasn't expecting this. Wow.
No, that's my thing. And so I think that's the other like part of it. It's like, so meetings today. God, can I just code this to make this more efficient? I could drive this through AI. Let me finish my homework to see how I can, because then yes, this is a tech process. So I do want things that like through process, use tech, lean into it to make things more efficient, to free up time, so I can go outside.
Exactly. Yes, I want to go out.
So I can be outside. You think I'm doing this? I'm doing this so I can be outside. Let's be clear. So I can take this. I can take my walk today, whereas some of my colleagues who are still fudging and trying to figure out how to do a document, I did that document in 5 minutes.
Yes. I just want to go outside. Like, I just want to sit outside. Like,
so what I'm learning here is that these meetings here aren't efficient. So let me build or let me see what tech I can utilize to make this more efficient, to save time. So I don't have to do this meeting this often, and then I can go outside.
Exactly. Yes. That is the goal of technology.
And even from patient care standpoint, it actually is it creates efficiency. It does allow more interface with tech and better outcomes. Like, I have utilized. I was at Disney World one time, and I had a nurse. She had all her telemedicine equipment because something came up urgently, and I had a provider here, but also just wanted to like oversee. So I had them to record, do asynchronous on the echo stethoscope. And then I pulled up on my phone, listened to it, and heard like all the sounds. Okay, yeah. And pull EKG up on my phone that they are like, okay, good. I'm overreading what was already done. I feel comfortable. So like from a patient care side, it creates efficiency. Like when I have patients wear wearables for their blood pressure, diabetes, for a week or two, I'm looking at it. Oh, okay. You know what? Let me find out. Your blood pressure is always happening here. What's going on? Such and such. Oh, that's perhaps maybe all we need to do is make this
yeah. Wow, so that's incredible.
Yeah, wearables, you can do a lot of stuff. Like, I would literally be looking at things from my phone. And so I still get the chance to have that reach and be connected, as we talked about, because I'm bringing this full circle. So reach is always paramount. I still have patient care. That's how I'm able to continue, because I keep up the skills. I need to be able to read EKGs, blood pressures, and things, and give my suggestions based upon the things that are happening in clinical care. But then I also I'm going to continue to push the needle to drive tech innovation so I can be outside. Take care of myself.
Doing the Lord's work, spending time with His creation.
Spending time with creation. So I'm exercising, I'm modeling what I teach my patients. Do these 10,000 steps, be outside, walk, live, breathe, decrease your cortisol levels, decrease your stress levels, because that's why you're sick. When you're stressed out, your cortisol level spikes. That's what creates stress, increases your blood pressure. I don't want you on all these medications. What do we need to do? We need to get you outside. How about that? So we decrease your stress, decrease your blood pressure, decrease your medications. In some cases, that's not everybody. I need to model that. I need to model that if you're not stressed out, that also helps with you're not as sick as often. You always get sick before a big test, right? That's what's going to happen because you're stressed, you increase those cortisol levels, you suppress your immune system. That's a fact, right? So why do you keep getting sick? Maybe you're getting sick because you're stressed out. So being able to intervene in an impactful way and not just coming to my patients saying, I'm pushing this pill, but how might I serve you that fits what's going on in your life? Because what may be going on in your life is you need someone to talk to because you're going through stress, anxiety, depression,
Yeah.
mental health things. And I need to be able to mirror that for you. How may I serve you?
Mm-hmm.
That's what
Oh,
everybody
that's
outside.
incredible. Yeah, that's incredible. And I love how much you talk about stress because like it's funny. I'm 34. I got shingles when I was 30. And so I
Really?
went, yes.
You were stressed.
Yeah, girl. Oh yeah, there was a lot of stress. There was a lot of stress in there. A lot of stress, right? So I go to the urgent care because I didn't know what it was. I thought I had like flea bites or something because I had like just little pimples like on my stomach and like
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, you're
So
stressed.
I'm like, yeah, I was stressed. Yeah, I was stressed. It was a lot of stress. A lot of stress. And so like I got into urgent care and they were like, "You're so young. Where are you getting shingles? Where are you getting shingles?" I'm like, "It's probably stress." But like the faculty at the urgent care, like they didn't really acknowledge the stress at all. You know, they're just like, okay. And like, that was it. Like, you know,
Yeah.
and the trigger with the shingles was, I had like forgotten a lot of my life. I had forgotten a lot. I had forgotten a lot of my life. And, what's it called? I was going to therapy. I was trying it out. I was trying out therapy. And
Everybody should go to therapy, but keep going.
So the therapist, this was like the first time like someone actually asked me how I felt during like a period in my life where there was like a lot of like I had an alcoholic stepfather, right? So like no one ever really asked me how I felt during that time. So then I was thinking about it. So then I actually went back to that place and then it was just like stress. And then plus my family was coming into town the next day. So it literally just triggered the stress. And then like that was like my indicator and my hair was falling out too. So that's my indicator. I'm like, something has to
you're stressed.
change. Yeah. I was like, something has to change. I actually stopped therapy because it felt like I was just reliving things. And then I don't know. And then we always talk about the algorithm. I was into, Dr. Joe Dispenza's book, Becoming Superhuman. And then I saw like an Instagram clip from him about like how to meditate. And then I did that. And then it sent me on like a super inner work, inner journey, really connecting with God and just getting out all the past. But as a result, my stress levels decreased. I stopped certain behaviors. I changed certain relationships. I changed jobs. You know, I went into entrepreneurship, launched my podcast, really started believing in myself, taking care of myself. Oh, I need a wellness routine, you know?
I love it. I mean, and you know what? So I do think that therapy is paramount throughout your life. It may not always be in the conventional sense that you think of, and it shouldn't always be for when you think like you're stressed out. Like before I turned 40, so I just recently turned 40. I'm 42. I remember at the end of my 30s, I was like, you know what? Let me go to therapy. I felt the shift. 40s, there's some F's that are going to go flying out the door. I just want to tell you that. So I started feeling this shift and like wanted to like see what that looked like. So I ran into therapy. I did therapy like a couple of sessions right before I got married. So I'm like, I don't know if I have daddy issues, but let me just see. So I've always been a proponent of therapy, having something to talk through, talk with. Because my mom, her background, even though she became a principal, was she had a counseling degree and she used to counsel. She still also does counseling, even though she's retired. She does counseling for drug education. And so I realized later on that she was utilizing those skill sets with us as we grew up. So I had that a better emotional intelligence and coping skills growing up innately by virtue of that. And then I also was more open to the option of therapy. I never shied away from it. And so that's why initially I explored it.
Yeah.
And so I think it's good because sometimes just need to talk things through in a way that it is not what they talk about on social media, no judge, we don't judge, that challenge
Yeah.
that's going on. But
Yeah.
having that where you're not being judged, you're able to unpack in a meaningful
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
And then also giving some tools to be able to navigate life. Stress is going to happen. So what are the tools are you going to utilize when you're overstimulating that limbic system, that frontal lobe, right? Some people go to alcohol, drugs. You're going to do something to get that,
Yeah.
and it may not serve you, right, in a meaningful way. You don't realize that. So what tools do we need how do we serve ourselves in a positive way? And so that is meditation. That is journaling. Sometimes you need a guide to put you back on the path. You may not have to see them all the time, but just every now and then to put you back on the path to be able to do that in a meaningful way. So yeah.
Yeah. That's great. You're absolutely right. And like the meditation, all that stuff, that did become like a therapy for me. And it's really funny because like you spoke about always serving, you always want to serve. And so like the way how I was like the emotional server person, like everybody would always come to me just because I would understand like the emotional standpoint, the complete background context of why someone's in a particular situation. And then I'm like, okay, it's blah, 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 blah. Right. And so then I was just always investing in other people's lives. And I never really looked back on myself. And then plus like some of my siblings have mental health issues too. So I was like a pseudo caretaker, from a distance, but just making sure, like, cause I live down here and they live in another state, but, making sure whenever there's an episode, there's some type of plan to make sure, one of my siblings taken care of. So I never looked at my own mental health. And so with getting like meditating, journaling, I've always journaled, but I never meditated. So with meditating and journaling, and rekindling my faith with God, I'm at the place now where it's like, oh snap, some of my thought processes, I might actually have like some compulsive behavior where I didn't realize that before, just because when you talk about capacity, right? I didn't have capacity to even take a look at how I'm looking at the world, or how the repetitive or counting or whatever is going on in my head. I thought it was natural, until like I got that fresh set of eyes. I'm looking at myself more in third person a little bit, just observing my behavior, observing my thought processes because of meditation. And I'm like, oh, so now I'm like seeking like, okay, let me look into this. Let me make sure it's not like an actual, diagnosis. Maybe it's just behavioral compulsions just from survival mechanisms I had to do, so. Yeah.
And the other thing about therapy is sometimes you have to have the right therapist. That is like a nice like a good pair of shoes. Like you have to figure out what it is for you. Yeah. And I've been fortunate, like I said, I tested somebody out. Like, oh, okay, I did a couple of sessions. I've done marriage therapy, like did 1 or 2 sessions, and then again, I'm a proponent of it. Like being proactive, that's part of self-care to me, right? And I found a therapist / coach, and who was a really good fit, because she is aligned, and I don't know, it's not the experience of forcing me to re-traumatize myself, but organically talk through, talk to, and support. It's just done so beautifully and magically.
Nice.
And spiritually. So
that's really nice. Yeah.
So I think that part is a good thing. And then again, there's a lot of other tools that are out there. There's some apps that are out there that I think are cool, because again, they kind of like provide some of that CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, in a very clean way, an accessible way. So if you have any reservations for seeking for whatever new for as it relates to how the stigmas are surrounded by mental health, whatever it is, they give you that. There's books, but I think it's at the end of the day finding the care package you need.
Everybody's
care package has to be different.
Yes. Yes. The
So,
care package. I love it. I love it. Oh my gosh. This conversation was so amazing. It's so funny how, you know, I always looked at it like, oh, one or the other, like business or medicine, just because that's how like things were presented to me at the time. But I love how like shared mentality, shared life outlook, shared principles that we have. This is actually a really fulfilling conversation for me, you know? So I'm
well,
very,
you
very
say the
happy you came on my
connecting the
show.
dots. Connect the
Exactly.
dots straight to outside. I'm gonna get my walk in tomorrow.
Yes. I love it. I love it. I love it. Oh my gosh. And so as we're wrapping up, what would be your top 3 pieces of advice for your younger self?
How can you serve yourself? One, um, I would still lean into my authenticity, like, because that has been my guiding force throughout life. It hasn't been predicated on labels or anything like that. Like, being authentic and what makes me happy and lean into my own overall, being able to really reach. And then number 3, I'm saying this because I had this talk recently with my therapist, right? And with someone else. I'm proud of you.
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That hits close to home. Yeah. That hits
I'm
close
proud
to
of you.
home. Yeah. Yeah. I'm proud of you.
So that's it.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And where can people find you?
People can find me on my socials, W.A. Smith. I think it's _MD. There's shastamd.com. My website, walkitria.smithmd.com. I have 50 million positions and email addresses. You know, so all the socials, Facebook, Twitter. Oh, not on Twitter anymore. Not on Twitter anymore, but yeah, I took a break from there.
Yeah, the place is crazy. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Walkitria. I'm so happy that you came on here. And yeah, we definitely need to stay in touch so we can, you know, do some tech and then hang outside together.
Absolutely. You know, I was supposed to be going to a conference. You know, the kids come first. I'm staying someone else in a video conference that's in California next week.
Uh-oh.
But
That
I'm
would have
sending
been a
somebody from my
cool one.
team.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Yeah, so you have to let me know the next one you're going to go to, so then I can go to that one too.
Absolutely. It's a
Yeah,
pleasure
that'd be
meeting you, sis.
cool.
Thank
Oh,
you.
yeah, it's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Have a good one.